Welcome to Dark Sorcery. I'm Alfredo Martinez, and I have with me once again Guion Hughes. Good to have you back on, Guion.
Thanks for having me again.
No problem. And today we're going to be studying the Necronomicon. I have with me my copy of the Necronomicon here. I also have Grimoire of the Necronomicon. Guion has some books as well.
Yeah, I have yours, and I got the updated version. I got the Pseudonomicon, which is just admitting that this is probably just somewhat made up, which everything probably is somewhat made up. I think even the Bible or whatever that people use, whatever reference you use, it's somewhat, finessed. And then I have this one by S. Ben Kane that's more of a system of evoking these entities and getting more into like Lovecraft, taking a little bit of a different position on it. So yeah, I'm excited about the subject.
And as we open, go ahead and read from that quote from the Call of Cthulhu.
Yeah, so I got this is the other book. This is the Complete Fictions of H.P. Lovecraft. This is Call of Cthulhu, Chapter 1. The most merciful thing in the world, I think, is the inability of the human mind to correlate all its contents. We live in a placid island of ignorance in the midst of black seas of infinity. It was not meant that we should voyage far. The sciences, each straining in their own direction, have hitherto harmed us little. But someday the piecing together of disassociated knowledge will open up such terrifying vistas of reality and of our frightful position therein that we shall either go mad of the revelation or flee from the deadly light into the peace and safety of a dark age.
I like that quote a lot because it speaks a lot of the ignorance of man, of a lot of men that just don't know what's out there. They just don't know. They're stuck in a bubble of love and light and happiness. But yeah,
I think that's a crucial thing about the occult. We talked about this in Goetia a little bit too. Any system really, or Enochian, anything where you're trying to bring these entities. I mean, a lot of times when people they want to say they want proof of these angels or demons or spirits or anything. Then when they get it, they might get a little bit scared, because I mean, do you really want to know? I mean, that changes your whole world. And there's a lot of things to that. People could always probably find a way to say you're hallucinating or group hallucination, or people were maybe slip something in drinks at the party or whatever, right? There's always going to be way to deny it, I think, because that's just how we are. And even these older systems, which even though this is a modern phenomenon somewhat, I believe that from my research in this book, this came out like in the 70s, that this is actually working on a Sumerian text and translating the Sumerian text. So it is an ancient this goes to the Bible or Goetia or any of these older systems. When I was meditating on them, the spirits were telling me, in these old days, humans didn't have the same ideas about biology and where things came from. So, if they saw flies, like Lord of the Flies, the Beelzebub, they saw flies, they thought that was a sign of a demon, and that was his pets or things that he bred to and he could get the consciousness back to them. And so we don't have that anymore. We see flies or ants or maggots, and we just know that's just biology. That's science. Back, 200 years ago, even people in rural areas, they thought that those were signs of demons. So we don't really piece that together, that the knowledge. And so with this, my point on this, I think, is with Cthulhu and all that is, imagine if you have no reference to biology, you have no reference to encyclopedias or the internet or even books. Most people can't even read back then. And then you see an octopus or a squid, and you're like, whoa, this looks way different than me. It's almost like you could believe that's an alien or something. Same thing with even insects like roaches. They got 6 legs. Some people might think, where do these animals with 6 legs come in? Why don't we have 6 legs? Why don't we have 8 legs? I
mean, the thing is that people can always make up excuses of, oh, so and so says he saw that or experienced this and that, but really it was this and that. The thing about the path of a magician, and especially a black magician, one who works with demons and in this type of environment, is that people can tell you all they want, of what the explanations are. But eventually, these beings will make themselves known to you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, demons will make themselves known to you.
Oh,
and
yeah.
they're pretty straight up. You know, so it'll be pretty
Yeah.
in your face of, hey, here we are, what's up, you know. But let's go ahead
Yeah.
and get a little bit of a background here on the Necronomicon now. So H.P. Lovecraft, supposedly he said that it was written by Abdul al-Hazred, the crazed Arab. Necronomicon is translated from Greek, means an image of the law of the dead, or can loosely be translated as the laws of the dead. In 1927, Lovecraft wrote the history of the Necronomicon. It wasn't published until after his death. The book was originally called Al-Azif, that nocturnal sound supposed to be the howling of demons.
Mm-hmm.
It was originally authored by, quote unquote, Abdul al-Hazred. Al-Hazred worshipped Yog-Sothoth and Cthulhu. Go ahead and tell us a little bit about Abdul al-Hazred and Al-Azif.
Yeah, these, I mean, I believe these could be composites. When I first studied this in the 80s, and you know, I have this is in this book too, the history of the Necronomicon. It's a very short little essay, kind of, really, basically, and it goes into this. I believe that that's a composite for a lot of like Arabic occultists and magicians, which that's what a lot of people don't know, that in the Muslim world, science and this is like in the Middle Ages, science and even occultism to a certain degree was accepted a lot more than in the Western Christian things, you know. So that's why,
algebra, mindset.
It's Arabic. People say that the Moors, actually brought a lot of culture back to the West because all our books got destroyed. Nobody knew how to read. So there's a lot of that stuff. So the Arabic world's like that. When I was studying this, I actually landed on an author called Al-Kindi, as I thought is possibly the Mad Arab, that they reference in here. Which that's another thing that and we talked about this, in our pre-show thing, our pre-thing is, I don't think people have a concept of mental health that they do now. That that they did. This is the 8th century supposedly, right? Where the Mad Arabics, where this Al-Kindi or Al-Hazred that's mentioned in this. The 8th century, they probably had, a whole different idea. They didn't have the concept of hallucination or schizophrenia or any of that kind of, they just was totally different. So Al-Kindi, basically, he was a philosopher and an occultist, and he wrote how he believed magic worked, which is, I thought it was a really interesting book. We could do a whole thing on that. They just released that. It was only in Latin. Even the original Arabic was destroyed. So it was a very obscure, rare book. But he felt that there's these stellar rays, and they're just kind of like these invisible like rays of things. And you see this in other things, even in science. You see with the string theory, for example. So even in science, we're discovering that he might have had something. We just call it string theory or whatever. So these stellar rays, mage or a priest or whatever, people can actually change these stellar rays and change their reality. And that's how magic works. They do that through incantation. Just we speak our world into being. Just like, even in the Bible, it says, God said, let there be light. So that's even an incantation thing,
Yeah.
There's he goes into animal sacrifice, which, that's maybe a touchy subject modernly, but it's in the Bible. We have slaughterhouses. We try to, most of us eat meat. I'm not a vegetarian, so I'm not really against it. I mean, their idea is that the animal, if it would have lived naturally and just died and just ate it, but when we kill it and eat it and do rituals around it, it actually changes the stellar rays because it changes its life. It's like the time-space continuum changed or something.
Well, you see, the reality is that, some people can, get a little upset when you mention the subject of sacrifice, whether it's animal sacrifice or human sacrifice, but it is a fact that if you do sacrifice an animal, if you do sacrifice a human, even a human, the screams, the pain, it does get translated into magical power that one can use. That is a fact, whether you want to acknowledge it or not.
And then the morality of it doesn't matter really. I see modernly, we have a huge suicide problem. Like a lot of my friends committed suicide or overdosed. So, that's a problem, and when people say that if people volunteer to do that, that's horrible. But you know, is it like society making people? I mean, who do we blame for all the suicides and overdoses and things like that? And you know, people that are just reckless.
You
We
know,
see a lot, but we don't really piece that
I
together and
think
say, oh, well, what about, you know, and if somebody said, oh, I have so much pain, I want to like volunteer myself to be, you know, which that happened in the past and probably
it
modernly too.
it does. I think some of it has to do with people who get into the occult, especially working with the demonic, and they're not careful, and they allow themselves to be possessed, or they leave their crown chakra open, or they're careless with what they're doing, and then the demons just destroy them,
Yeah.
which can easily be done if you're not careful, because this is something not to mess with. It's something that, yeah, you can partake in, but it's something to be taken seriously and something to not be taken lighthearted.
And I think that's a part of Christianity. A lot of people don't realize because it's kind of obscure. Is you know, all Christians basically, if you read into their philosophy, they don't believe that. That's why they believe that, you know, you could be redeemed, that you forgive. You know, that no matter how bad people did, humans did, they can be redeemed, and they can, you know, as long as they believe in their
Yeah,
ideology, because
yeah.
they don't believe that humans do these things. They believe that humans get possessed by demons that make them do these things. And so humans by nature are not bad. It's just they open themselves up, like you said, to that. And you know, the devil made me do it. That's how, and
Well,
that's
that
yeah.
can be an excuse, but on the other hand, if you let your guard down, the devil will make you do it. You
Yeah.
know.
Well, I mean, I think I mean, it'd be hard to say like, okay, is like, if somebody does this and they were hearing voices, you know, people could say they had mental illness, but
Yeah.
mental illness is a modern concept. I mean, 200 years ago, if somebody said I heard a voice that told me to do something horrible, they wouldn't consider that, you know, they would just kill you, or they would whatever. They would
Right.
say,
They'd
that's
burn
worse.
you at the stake.
You deciding you wanted to do these bad things, right? So
Yeah.
modern, you know, we put this, which you know, I have problems with the modern like mental health systems too. I think, and to a certain degree, some of it is like the continuation of witch trial mentality, Puritanism mentality. You know,
Yeah.
anybody weird gets put away, tortured. You know, I mean, because you know they tortured. You know, they shocked them. They did the lobotomy, an ice pick in the eye. I mean, that's torture. You know,
It is.
people that modernly, like, you know, even like maybe even me and you, people, and anybody who considers himself like a witch or witchy at all, you know, they would put, you know, in the 1920s in America, they probably would have been, if you know, if they got around the wrong people, they would have been put away into an asylum and tortured, which is
Yeah.
basically the same as the witch trials, I think, you know.
No,
But you know,
correct.
that's a continuation
Yeah.
of this. Yeah,
Let me.
that's
What I want to do right now is go ahead. I want to read a couple paragraphs from the Grimoire of the Necronomicon, just to give a kind of background of a talking point here. Let's talk a little bit about the fallen Earth, the Earth before man, as it was when the gods ruled. So I'm just going to read a couple paragraphs here. This is from Grimoire of the Necronomicon. The chapter is called The Fallen Earth. It's on page 9. It says, the great work of the old ones is to sterilize this world of all life, purifying it so that it is made fit to elevate through the highest gate of Yog-Sothoth. Matter may, with some awkwardness, pass through the lower gates, but so much matter cannot be elevated through the final gate to the throne of creation. Only living matter that has become mingled with the substance of the old ones, and in this way transformed into hybrids of half humanity and half of the old ones, becomes fit for this transition. This intermingling may be accomplished not merely through the mingling of flesh, but through the mind and soul, which have the power to purify the body. I'm going to skip that paragraph and the next one. First, he must restore the rule of the old ones upon the earth. This he seeks to accomplish through the use of human agents and other agents who dwell in the deep places of the world that are not human. Yog-Sothoth aids him in his work, but not always willingly, for Yog-Sothoth did not approve of the violation of the goddess. Yog-Sothoth loves order and harmony and laments its loss. He aids Nyarlathotep in the hope that harmony will be restored to the cosmos when Barbazoa awakens, but he is no friend to Nyarlathotep and will act to frustrate the messenger of the dancing gods when opportunity presents itself. Now, I just want to get your take on the old world.
Yeah, that's a very interesting part of Lovecraft's fiction, and the Call of Cthulhu is kind of like, I recommend everybody to read that. It's not that long, and it's really a good introduction. The idea is like, we don't really have this concept in the West so much that Lovecraft brought. It's more of a numinous concept, like it just puts you in awe, and rather than scaring you, or it could be scaring you. Is what if we just think what if there's no God? What if it's all in our head? Atheists versus theists versus Christians. But what if there's a whole other thing that we don't even conceive, that there are old gods. There's gods that like exist. They're asleep and they don't necessarily like us. Maybe they liked it when the dinosaurs ruled the planet better. Maybe they just want us to be controlled like pets, and you could even go back to the Adam and Eve myth on that. They didn't want to, he didn't want us to eat the fruit because we'd be more, more lucid, more in the know. So what if we have a God, and I think this is kind of a nod, if you get into it more when we talked about Gnostic Christianity, like, what if the God of the Old Testament was not, didn't like us, doesn't want us to go forward. And this is the concept there. What if, this is it's a good time to show this is like, Cthulhu. I got a little statue here, you can get flying these around. They're pretty fun. The idea of this being a God, and if you just look at this God, you'll go mad. I mean, that's just such a guy. That's not in Greek.
I think that's a figure. I think that's a figure of speech as you get closer to Cthulhu, that may start to happen.
Well, and then what we were talking about in the beginning, you're opening your mind up to concepts that you may not be able to handle. And
exactly.
It may drive somebody to a state that people call madness or insanity or mental illness, or they could call it what they want, but everybody has that, and that's why they say, there's a thin line between genius and insanity. I mean, look at Tesla or Einstein. They acted weird in a lot of ways, but they were geniuses. And modernly, we can look at Elon Musk. He's doing all this stuff with Tesla. He's pretty smart, but socially, it looks like he's having some problems. They used to call them savants. Well, the old bad word was idiot savants. It was that they're super genius, but they can't really function in society that well because their mind is so expanded. They don't really conceive the day-to-day things. And I think that's what where they're coming from with that is what if these gods, you awaken these gods, and people think when you seek God or gods or you're on a spiritual journey that you're going to be enlightened, and it's a good thing, and it's a good journey, and but what if you go and it blows your mind and it's not a good thing, and you're like, oh, like it says, you flee to the ignorance, you flee to a dark age, you go mad, or you flee to a dark age and say, I don't believe in any of that, which is kind of where a lot of Christians are. I don't want to believe in any of it. It's all satanic and bad, and we don't want it, because I think it's a fear factor thing,
Well, I think that there is, I think there's an advantage of taking a chance of getting close to the darkness and embracing the wisdom that the darkness has to offer, because you can ascend to heights that you can't even imagine, but you have to go through the darkness. You know what I mean? If you're engulfed with the light too much, you become weak. You know what I mean? I mean, there's this, you need some tough love every now and then.
Yeah. Because light is just the other side of darkness. I mean, we talked about that last week with the abyss. Yeah. I think this is alluding to, this is probably a creature of the abyss that's the thing with Lovecraft is, H.P. Lovecraft, he has claimed to be an atheist, not really into things. He had some problem. He was in the 20s, so there's some things that was kind of progressive then, I guess. But he also, he had these nightmares. He was probably, and lucid dreaming, and that's astral projection, what we call modernly. That's what we call out of body experiences and things like that. So he had these, and these were dreams. I mean, he called them the dream cycles. The dream cycles of Cthulhu. So all these things came to him in his dreams. He thought they were just, that's just for me to write this fiction. But the poetry and things like that, that's what all the not just the occult, but the Bible. You go into Thelema, like we talked about last week with Crowley. Saw poetry. Poetry it opens parts of our mind that just telling people, hey, these things, this is the way it is. This is the way, people don't do it, but if you do it poetically, it opens up the right brain more. The left, then the left brain can maybe conceive a little better. That's how I look at it.
That's a good point you make. I want to go ahead and read a paragraph from the Necronomicon. This is on page 6. And it says, "Let all who read this book be warned, therefore, that the habitation of men are seen and surveyed by that ancient race of gods and demons from a time before time, and that they seek revenge for that forgotten battle that took place somewhere in the cosmos and rent the worlds in the days before the creation of man, when the elder gods walked the spaces, the race of Marduk, as he is known to the Chaldeans, and of Enki, our master, the Lord of magicians." That stood out to me. Some points that I want to go over is that, so let's go over a little bit about Abdul al-Hazred's supposed death, and if you think this is literal or a figure of speech. Al-Azif was written sometime before 738. Al-Hazred died in 738. Now, according to, I guess you could say folklore, Abdul al-Hazred died while walking through a marketplace in the Middle East. A portal opened. He was grabbed by demons, lifted into the air, ripped to shreds, and then the portal was closed. What do you think the point of all that mentioning is, if there is?
I mean, you can't say it's something like, I mean, it sounds like kind of like a horror movie, like Hellraiser, probably inspiration for Hellraiser and stuff like that. I mean, but I think that there is a possibility that these things happened. Just, I mean, I think it's like people don't see all the working parts when they see something like that. I mean, it could have been that he summoned some people and these were real people, or they were shadow assassins or something, or who knows? It could have been.
The thing is that once you get so deep into the occult, some people will see portals. I've seen them with my own eyes open in front of me, and disappear. And I'm sure you have, or someone else has at some point. You know what I mean? And there is some truth to this, but I just thought we go ahead and just mention that as a point for this video.
No, I mean that it reminds me of in the occult, and this goes to like to witchcraft too. People were. But you were like, well, why did they have the witch trials? Modernly we think witchcraft, we can't do a crime on that. I mean, when someone curses someone, like say, that's a big thing why they were so against women into witchcraft, is they control the food, I mean, on top of cursing somebody, they could put something to make somebody sleep and just set the house up, they could poison everybody, these are things that people don't, like in the Old Testament, the word witch is just something that they came up with, in English, the Old English. It actually meant like poisoner, it meant poisoner or female magic user, and like seer, like the witch of Endor, I mean, this stuff is in the Bible and they describe it differently. We just took it, they took it, the English took it, with the King James version of the Bible and King James, and put it into a different context and use the witch and all that. But I mean, the whole thing with the witch doing the cauldron, they think she's brewing poisons or drugs, or entheogens.
She does have a motive to everything she does. The witch has a motive to everything the witch does,
and it works. I think it works no matter what. It's not a matter of waiting for some supernatural thing. I think if you really upset a witch, they're gonna get you no matter what. If you get close to them, they're gonna get. They could get you with a poison needle, anything, right? There's a lot of things that people don't see them working parts. They just think it's all about, doing a little curse thing. But I mean, if you get somebody messed up and they're close to you, I would look out. I mean,
Well, they could even do it over time in cycles. It doesn't have to be all at once. If you want to get rid of somebody, you can have it just be in cycles and have them just die a little every day until they're gone.
And not even substances. And that's what they modernly call gaslighting or whatever. You could drive somebody where they just believe things, or cult programming. I mean, that stuff existed too. I mean, that's now modernly we see, that's like hypnotism, kind of. It's manipulation, it's psychology. They didn't have those concepts back then. That was all witchcraft to them. They didn't have the concept of like hypnotizing somebody. That Mesmer, the guy named Mesmer, I think he was like in the early 19th century, where he was even coming up with these concepts of.
Well, all that stuff is rooted in the occult anyway. I mean, they had to get into the occult to bring it out to the mainstream public. Mm-hmm. Another thing, let's go ahead and move on here. So in 950 Al-Azif was translated into Greek by Theodorus Philetus in 950 and called the Necronomicon in 1228. It was translated from Greek to Latin by Olaus Wormius. Lovecraft said that there are only 5 copies in circulation of the original translation of the Necronomicon. And supposedly, if you have the original copy, or you get so deep into the Necronomicon itself, the subject matter, that you'll start to age and your youth will leave you. And because you have the wisdom of the elder gods and the old gods, you lose your youth, but you gain newfound wisdom. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I can see that. I mean, I think that could just be an analogy to somebody, just coming maturely. I mean, I honestly think what you're saying there, because I've kind of looked into this. It's good that you read this passage. They mention Enki and Marduk. I mean, these are like, if you read the Epic of Gilgamesh, these are Babylonian, Sumerian gods. I mean, this, even though this is called the Necronomicon, it actually, the way that it was put together, from my understanding, and this is like kind of a secret, is that there's an author who's a chaos magician type guy, Peter Levinda. He assembled a team, and they had these old, not untranslated Sumerian texts and things like that. And modernly, we see that people have put that out where they've translated them, and they translated this because this actually doesn't, if I remember right, I don't believe it doesn't mention Cthulhu or Nyarlathotep or any of the ones that they mention, like it's something like this, or the Espen Kane book, where it's more like exactly using the names that Lovecraft used. They're actually using Sumerian names, Sumerian gods. That's why you see, I don't have a copy of it, but I saw that people are putting out the Sumerian or the Babylonian Necronomicon. So there's a lot of like different things that they put this together. That's why I consider this like chaos magic. Other people would say like maybe not, but because this was in the 70s and they used popular fiction mixed with, real old things. I think that's the thing. The other books, like, the ones that I'm mentioning here, like this is called the Pseudonomicon, which, in this one, they just basically, they're just basically admitting that, this is probably not, like totally legit, which what is legit? They have a Cthulhu statue. So, it's like in chaos magic, they have this thing called belief is tool, so if you believe in this, why not? I mean, you don't have to like say, I mean, because it's just like a Christian, the Gospels are contradictory. There's a lot of things that probably didn't happen, that were in the Bible, that maybe were analogies or whatever, mythologies, whatever. But that's their source.
The reality is that there's power in prayer and there's power in incantation, no matter your path. There is some power that Christians can have when holding hands in a circle. Same thing when witches get together. They're holding hands in a circle, and you're creating an energy current is what you're doing. No matter whether you're a Christian or not, that's what you're doing. If you're all focused on one point, if you're all
I think a background of the Pentecostal, which speaking in tongues is a big thing with that. So the tongues that I learned as growing up as a Pentecostal or in my early 20s, because I was into that before. It's the same, I call it Enochian, or I call it, I call it glossolalia. That's I think it's the official term, but it's all the same. I mean, once you learn that, it's incantation, and you could use it any way you want. It doesn't have to be like label. Sometimes I think, calling things angels and demons and good and bad, it's just kind of like a spiritual racism, kind of a little bit, I mean, that's I don't know.
Oh my God. Spiritual racism, man. I mean, that should
because look, I mean, people could say, okay, this is a spirit. I mean, we're humans, right? But I can describe, that's a white dude, that's a white guy. I don't, just, and the tone of it is like dismissive, right? That's got some guy from the Middle East, I mean, it's like, you could put labels on people as humans, but we're all human.
Right.
Perfect. We're not horrible. Most of us aren't perfect, but I think that's where it comes in is, angels, you see a spirit and you think it's good, then you say that's an angel or a helper or whatever. You see one that you think is bad or not good to you, you say, "Oh, that's a demon." You know,
Yeah,
it's just labels. You know, that's just my own little spin I put on it.
I like that you mentioned that. Well, it looks like we're running low on time. So, anything else you want to go ahead and mention before we go ahead and close this study session?
It's a really good book. I mean, I know it's not. This is called I kind of like Volumius ex Chaosum by S. Ben Kane. It's actually
Yeah.
a really good series. It goes through all the different ways you could use this stuff. It goes through ritual, creating it. Well,
Yeah.
some of this stuff also was in it's in a lot of movies, like that new series. It's on Netflix, so that it's becoming really popular. The with Guillermo de Toro.
Yeah.
What's it? Curiosities. You know that? Yeah,
I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it, but I want to check it out though.
Yeah. They actually have some of the symbols. He's really into Lovecraft and all this stuff. So he's done a lot of things. Nightmare Alley. He's done tons of movies. So yeah, this is a great subject. Hopefully we could do part 2, 3, whatever.
Yeah,
I love.
definitely. We will continue on this. Anybody who's watching, go ahead and check out Guion's links. I will have them below this video. Check out his TikTok and all that. Guion, good discussion. And everybody who's watching, go ahead and like and subscribe to Dark Sorcery.
Thank you.